I was late because we're having our all hands, not next week, but the week after. First all hands we're ever having. Very excited about this.
In person?
In person, yeah. Flying people down to Missouri. We're all going to hang out. We got 2 days full of content. We're writing up like a bunch of stuff. I'm doing a presentation. Most of my staff are doing different presentations about different things. Everyone's on the same page. Loving this idea. Wanted to do really nice swag for everybody. So we decided on backpacks. We decided on water bottles. We got new hats and some like battery packs. Got my water bottles, got my batteries. But the backpacks have been a problem. My normal ASI vendor, who's like kind of a flake, so I don't care if she's never going to listen to this, so I don't care about bashing her. Like didn't get back to me in time. And I was like freaking out. So I went to Staples Promotions to go find the backpack we like, ordered it, was checking in. Hey, we can't tell you anything until it goes into production, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I need to have it by like a drop dead date. They just emailed me today being like, we don't have that backpack in stock. I was like, I asked you about this a week ago when I ordered it or more. And they're like, we apologize for the inconvenience. What would you like to do? I was like, cancel the order because I need to go freak out now. That's why I was late, because I was just going online. I really wanted a backpack with an embroidered logo, but apparently that's effing impossible.
And there's nobody local who can do it?
I'm sure there is, but I don't have the time to go figure that out. And also we need to get, like, there's a certain type of backpack we were all looking for. Like, I have an eBags backpack, which was great. They don't make it anymore because eBags got bought by Samsonite. Otherwise I would just have them do that. And I don't want a neoprene backpack because we're not middle schoolers.
Yeah, I get that.
Guess what? We ended up with a semi-neoprene backpack, the North Face Stalwart 15-inch computer backpack. It's a 26-liter bag. While it's no longer sold on the North Face official website, the bag is widely available through promotional products. Yeah, so we're going back to customink.com, who will get it done, rush, and deliver it by end of day one of our all hands. So everyone will get the backpack, but I was really hoping to have everything in the bag and make it nice and pretty for everybody. And of course, screwed.
Yeah. But it's a North Face bag. It should be very nice. As kind of a bag nerd myself, 26 liters seems kind of big though.
It's a big bag. It's got a lot of room. It'll hold your laptop. It has pen holders and a water bottle holder. It'll put my logo on it and we'll have it in time. So I don't care.
And you might be able to hide a body in there.
Near.
Level up your email domain security and deliverability. Reduce business email compromise and reel in that pesky email phishing. Make DMARC a new revenue stream for your MSP. Becoming a managed service provider partner with EasyDMARC is a great opportunity for your business to boost sales and decrease risk. Your customers need DMARC. Your job is to let them know that their email domain might be at risk. Find out more today at atmsp.link/EasyDMARC. That's atmsp.link/EasyDMARC.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to All Things MSP Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Escar. With me always is my good friend and Chinosaurus Rex, Mr. Eric Anthony. What's up, buddy?
It's very straight today, thanks to Sean Lardo and the beard straightener he sent me.
Here's the thing, right? You talk about Sean Lardo and the beard products that he sent you the way we used to talk about Liquid Death.
That's true. I don't think we're going to get sponsored by Sean, though.
Sean.
Or by Wild Willie's, which is the brand of the beard.
This will be gone, much like every time we record. And if you watch us on youtube.com/@allthingsmsp, this is the longest it gets for the week. I shave once a week and then we'll call it a day. Got a topic for today. I did ask in the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/allthingsmsp, if you're not there, what people want to hear about. We heard from Tim Gallagher. He wants to know about hosting servers for your clients as an MSP, right? Hosting like your own on-prem servers. Now, we live in a world of cloud. Why would you want to host an on-prem server? And there's valid reasons for this. you know, and we're gonna get into, should we not? Let's do this.
I think in general, my answer would be no. I think, like you said, there are some specific circumstances where it would be yes. However, I just don't think that it's worth it anymore
Mm,
because you can get what you need most of the time from an existing cloud hosting provider and be able to customize it the way that your client needs it
mm-hmm.
without having to invest in all of the equipment, have all of the security and 24 by 7 security that goes into a data center. Like there's just too much responsibility and risk involved today that can be completely pushed off onto somebody else.
Right. Look, obviously you're taking that argument, so I have to take the opposite one. I tend to agree with you on this one, but we'll, for the sake of the fact that we still have 20 minutes left in this episode, I'll play the advocate. We used to Virtua back in the day used to provide backup and email services for clients. And I remember being in Washington, D.C. at a conference and then getting a phone call from one of my clients being like, my email's not working, only to find out that the Mac Mini connected to the Drobo, so it wasn't really a great system in the first place, that was running my email server died. And I remember doing a presentation because I was speaking at this event, running out the door, the conference owner calling me going, what the hell, you ruined your presentation. I was like, another place, another time. Getting lost in DC, driving around the Washington Monument 6 times, screaming out loud, how do I get the F out of DC? And then calling my friend and getting me a Mac Mini overnighted to my apartment in Manhattan so I can spend all day Saturday on the floor of a colo facility trying to recover from a dead Mac Mini. So yes, moving to the cloud does make sense. There is a case to be made, however, not necessarily, I would say, for the MSP, but there's a case to be made if there's internal IT for using open source servers and things like that. I know plenty of people do this. My take, this is weird because I'm on the wrong side of the take here. I never do anything.
You want to switch sides?
No, it's fine. It's fine. This will make for a worse podcast. I never do open source server, but I understand why people do, right? Because my thing about open source is always like, there's no one to support it, and I'm like, well, I'm here to support it. But the backup, I would say it depends on what the server is. Let's call it that. I think it depends on what the server is. I think there's a case to be made for if you have a big Synology in your house and you have a second Synology in your mom's house, which is far enough away from you geographically, and you want to back up your client's Dropbox data to those two things as because you're already doing secondary and tertiary at this point because Dropbox has its own backups. I think that's okay-ish. I don't think it's okay for any of us at this point as MSPs to host our own email.
Yeah, I think the application probably is important here. I never want to call my mom and tell her to reboot the NAS. So no, you've got me out on that one.
Web remote plugs, dude. Unify PDU. You can remotely power cycle an outlet.
But the Comcast guy came and he changed out my modem, and now nothing doesn't.
Weird
nothing
how
works
you
anymore.
sound exactly like my mom, except it's Xfinity, whatever. Yeah,
I love your mom.
For those who don't know, Eric has actually met my mom. He's not being facetious about it.
Right. So let's go back to applications, right? Sure. I think
let's do this application wise.
I think email, for me, an absolute no. I think there may be some very small side case where for security reasons or data residency reasons in a country besides the US, you might have an argument for hosting email locally.
Can I throw something in on you real quick on this one? Because I just remembered this story. So when I hosted my own email, we used Kerio, which I don't know. I think it's GFI now.
I used it before, yeah, and it is
Okay.
owned by GFI now,
Okay.
at least last I saw.
Right. So Careo is great. However, Careo never had a backup tool. So I was like heyday in my like software development world. And so I created a product called Email Phoenix, which was a way to back up your Careo to another mail server. Basically, it was just a GUI for rsync, right? Secrets out. Um, and I was partnered with someone here in the States because he had extra storage space that he can use, and we were rsyncing to that. People could run Careo off of his servers, and we were charging them a monthly fee. But then we started getting hit up from people in the EU who couldn't do that for GDPR reasons. They couldn't have their data be in the United States, and I was too small to make servers in the EU. So we created a BYOS version of Email Phoenix, bring your own server. And I still, to this day, have one customer who I gave him, I was able to hack my own code and give him like an unlimited license so he didn't have to pay yearly for it. But he's the IT guy for like this very wealthy person in Europe who spends 6 months of the year on a boat. So what he does is every 6 months, he uses Email Phoenix to this day to sync Careo from the on-prem office to the boat server and then back. So this way he uses Starlink, I'm assuming now Starlink, right? In international waters and can retain his email. Now, I guarantee you there's something real illegal happening with this guy. Don't care. He paid me my money for my software. But like that would be this edge case that you're talking about, right? Like there's got to be a reason behind it. If you're in the United States, the answer is don't do this. But if you're an illegal, what I'm assuming, blood diamond drug trafficker in off the coast of Finland,
Then Justin's your IT guy.
I built you a piece of. If you're that guy and you know who you are, hit me up. I want to see what you're up to nowadays. Don't use my real email.
I don't think those types of people listen to this podcast, but I could be wrong.
But yeah, so there is the edge case. I think for most of us, however, yes, email is a zero sum game. Play Google or Microsoft and don't do anything else.
Well, there's just too much risk, especially in email, right?
Yeah.
Now application servers, I think for most things, well, first of all, most things have moved to the cloud, so there's a cloud version, right? But let's just use the most common piece of software used by small businesses today that we have issues with in the cloud. And that would be QuickBooks, because not everybody likes QuickBooks Online. It doesn't do everything that QuickBooks Desktop does, but it's very hard just to spin up a server in the cloud and load QuickBooks on it and make it work well over like RDP or some other type of virtual desktop. It requires somebody who knows what there are literally services out there who do this. They set up entire farms to host QuickBooks.
I have a story about this too.
I'm sure you do because you deal with these people all the time. So that's another example where sometimes it works fine, but because of QuickBooks database server and all the little things that you have to tweak to make it work well, I just don't think that's a good match for an MSP these days.
So we have a client who was using their PCs and they're using QuickBooks, and we had them in a cloud-based QuickBooks tool. Like that's what they do. They're one of these QuickBooks data farms, and the servers got a virus. They emailed us and said, "Hey, we're down. We're sorry." And my client was like, "We need our data," and they couldn't get to it. And so we got them to send us a backup. They found a backup. They were going to restore everything. We got a backup file, and we just ripped out. We were like, "Bye, you're done. We're done with you." And we have it sitting on the shared cloud file share service that everyone uses. And once every 9 to 10 months, there's a hiccup with connecting to the Z drive. So we have to like make sure that the person actually like disconnects or reconnects to one of these cloud file services, and it's done. But yeah, like I can see people needing QuickBooks multi-tenant, and I think as an MSP, I think running that on a local server, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's okay. Another one that is definitely okay is your print servers. right? Especially if you're using something like PaperCut. Like I know PaperCut has
Yeah.
a cloud version, but like in my mind, and I don't know enough about PaperCut, so like I look forward to your tweets and emails. But like in my mind, it's dumb for you to use PaperCut in the cloud to go up to the cloud to come back down to your local printer. That
Agreed.
said, we have PaperCut running on a server for a client, and it still sucks. So, like, I think there's a case to be made that like the software is garbage, but there are those cases, right? I don't think there's. I think what we said in the beginning is the important part here is it's going to be application based. QuickBooks, I think, can be run locally, and you should run a server running that. PaperCut.
Yeah.
I think the kicker to all of this, though, is we have to remember the old school backup methods that we tend to not do anymore because everything's in the cloud, right? Like,
True.
we don't really back up users' desktops anymore for the most part. We do in some cases, depending on what they need regulatory, but like we're getting to the point where users now really just sit at dumb terminals because everything's in the cloud. So there's no reason to back up their desktops. However, if you have something like QuickBooks running on a server, don't get me wrong, I like Backblaze, but like I don't know if Backblaze is enough of a backup service to back up accounting data like QuickBooks, or can handle a backup like a PaperCut server. Like you
Yeah.
need to take that into consideration. Have a replicant server on-prem because you don't want to be stuck building a new box, or buying a new box, and then waiting for everything to download.
Well, and that's a great point. It's not just the QuickBooks file, right? Or the backup file in this case. It's the environment, especially because the QuickBooks server environment can be kind of finicky. You know, even if you have the QuickBooks backup file, it's going to take you a while to restore that entire server, not just load QuickBooks and restore the backup file. And so that's where I think that having something that is replicatable and you can just spin up a new instance quickly, and then all you do have to do is restore the QuickBooks backup file.
I mean, it's Murphy's law because the day the day they need their QuickBooks, because it's the end of the quarter, is going to be the day that the server dies, right? Like,
Right.
the other thing is, I'm thinking about this from like an ROI perspective of your own time. Server goes down at 8 p.m. Like, you might not offer 24/7 service, right? But if their server goes down at 8 p.m. because they're working through the weekend on a project, you have to be able to help them. If a cloud-based server goes offline, not saying you should do this, but you can be like, we can't do anything. They're down. We have to wait for them. Like, it's an upstream problem,
Right.
as our lawyer friends like to say. But if the server is on-prem and it's down, you're the upstream, dude. Like, you have to fix it.
Yeah. And that's a great point. And as soon as you start hosting services like that, you automatically become 24/7, whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
And hey, if that's what you want to do, more power to you. I don't know many MSPs who actually want to do 24/7.
Yeah. And then the question is also like, where are you going to keep these servers? Like, are you going to keep them locally in their office? Are you going to colo them? If you colo them, then you have to have something that's like accessible by you in a time frame. Like, I have a friend who does colo, who colos a lot of backups. They do a lot of backups, Synology backups, Synology to Synology. And he makes a good penny off of it. And the way his model works is great. However, the colo is 2.5 hours from where he is. And he's worst case scenario backup. Like, he has other things in between. So like, let's not, I don't want to, I'm not downplaying him. Like, I know what his model is. His model works, but I just want to run this out for a second. If he has to go to the colo, which he goes once a quarter, but if he has to go to the colo, that's 2.5 hours. And if you have a client who's freaking out because their data is missing or something has gone wrong, they don't want to wait 2.5 hours for you to get there.
Yeah,
you're going to stop for gas. You got to go to the bathroom because we're all old and have prostate problems. You want to pick up a cheese sandwich, whatever. Like, it's not really 2.5 hours. It's probably closer to 3.5, right? So there's you have to take that into consideration. I think there's the argument here is risk versus reward, and what the application per risk versus reward per application on top of it.
Yeah.
Because QuickBooks, going back to that example, doesn't have to be on-prem server. It, for speed purposes, it makes sense, right? But it doesn't have to be. Whereas PaperCut probably should. Or I know there's I don't remember which one, but there's like all these architectural software that need to have a locally run server to prove authenticity for the software. Because architectural software is still hella expensive and they don't trust anyone. So does your and okay, let's wrap all that up with, is your client willing to pay for all of that? Because that's the next part of this argument, right? Because you as the MSP need to lay out the risks that your client is taking on by having QuickBooks on-prem, whether it's on-prem or you're hosting it. I'm going to count it the same as opposed to cloud-based hosting. Your client has to understand those risks. If your client doesn't understand those risks, you're doing them a disservice. And are they willing to pay for it all? Meaning, are they willing to pay for a box and a second box and maybe even a third box, or a big enough box that you can do, bare metal VMs or something to that effect, and host all of that stuff? And then on top of which, restoring and backups and whatever. I have a client who we built their Synologies. This is like, I want to say a year before COVID-ish. So like end of 2018, beginning of 2019, I would say. And so again, remembering that the way Synologies were built out, and again, time framing, like we built a Synology, we put an extension on it to be hyper backup, and then we built a second box to be a clone. And then from that clone, we cloned it to his brother's office who lives in Texas. And we still had a Wasabi backup for offsite backup, right? Because I was like, I'm never losing data at this client ever.
Right.
And then the bills got really high for the Wasabi backup. And he just looked at it and was like, what's the risk versus reward? I have a local and I have a clone. Meaning if I need to restore something, I can get from the local. And if this server dies, we can go to the clone. And if, God forbid, the New York office catches on fire or we lose complete power, we can get it from my brother's office in Texas. And we have Meraki's in place, VPNs, P2P, the whole thing, whatever. And I was like, in theory, yes. I was like, but what if someone comes in with a PC and all your data gets eaten and the worm travels all the way around? He's like, I am willing to risk that because that has not happened in 7 years. And so I said, I'm fine with all this. It's your money. I'm telling you, I don't think this is a great idea, but I'm fine with and I agree. I see where you're coming from and I get it. If you write me an email that says, I'm not going to hold you responsible if someone with a PC comes in and a worm eats all my shit, I will cancel your Wasabi backup. And he did. And I have an email, which Brad Gross is very happy about. Right? But, there's cases to be made there.
Yeah. And I think you're right. It's a risk versus reward equation. I think part of it is the complexity of what is under your control. And the more complexity under your control, the more it's going to cost you to maintain. I think to me, that's where a lot of the hidden expense comes in, well, you own the endpoint because you're their MSP. You own their internet connection because you're their MSP. You own your internet connection at wherever you're hosting this, and you own the equipment that it's being hosted on. Mm-hmm. And so every piece of complexity where there could be a failure, you're on the hook for. Where if you have it just on a third-party cloud service, you're responsible for the endpoint and their internet connection.
Yeah.
Done.
I know people are asking right now. The client that I have has like 80 terabytes of data, which is why it's not in a cloud solution, why they're doing local, right? And for the record, we're moving active stuff to a cloud solution now. But you're right. The risk versus reward. I think if you're a 1 or 2 person shop, none of the stuff that we're talking about today should be in your mindset. Like,
Yeah,
I can
because you just
understand.
don't have the people to run it.
Exactly. Like, you don't have the bandwidth and the people to do this. I will give leeway for on-prem servers that don't require a lot of work. For example, a papercut server, if it goes down, you can just run papercut on something else, or just skip papercut altogether and print. There is a use case, but again, risk reward. If you're a 10-person office and you have someone who's monitoring that stuff all the time, and you have set up, alerting and ticketing, and you're watching their network connection, and you have a status page on everything that they have, like, that's a different story. But your average 1 to 2 person company is not going to be able to do this. And I think from a dollar cost value, it doesn't make sense to do it either. And I think you should really reconsider. And if your client pushes back on that and says, no, we're fine with this, we want this, you have to ask yourself, are they the right client for you? Right? Are they your ICP? Or are you willing to risk going and picking out every last hair from the top of your head, say voila, to handle this customer?
Yeah. And to me, that's a lot of it. You just put a pin in it for me. We are not questioning your technical ability to do this. Okay? That is not what we're doing here. What we're doing is we're saying it is not worth your time. Your time is more valuable than that. Mm-hmm. And you can use it to make more money by offloading some of this stuff to somebody else.
Yeah. No, I agree. I know I was supposed to be on the opposite side of things, but I agree. I think it's hard to compete with the cloud-based solutions that are out there now. Even if you're running it in AWS or Google Cloud or Azure or whatever, right? Like, not owning the hardware and all the in-between points, I think, matters. And to be honest, if you are considering running your own servers locally and you want to run some version of Linux to run a cheap email server, reconsider.
Please.
Or run it in AWS. You could run a Linux server off AWS, right? Like, I've done that. I don't know why I've done it, but I've done it. Forget what I didn't do it.
To prove you could. We've all done it.
I think we've all done it. I think you can get like a free an AWS with like Ubuntu.
Right.
6 or whatever. I don't know what version they're up to. I don't care. There's already, like, what do they say? They say, like, what's new, what's old becomes new again, right? I think we're just on that cusp of finishing up, realizing that the computer in front of us is what the computers were in like the 70s and 80s, when you had a big, massive computer on the other side of the wall, which is that they're just dumb terminals. Like, I have this really powerful M4 Pro Mac Mini that I spent a lot of money on putting a lot of RAM and hard drive space into it. And like, I use it to surf the web.
Primarily, it is a dumb terminal.
It primarily is a dumb terminal. And in all fairness, as a dumb person using the dumb terminal, right? Like, that's fine. I found out today that if you go to Google and you search for any of the 151 Pokemon, they show up on screen. There's a little Pokeball and you can click on it. You can catch Pokemon in your web terminal, like in your web browser. Why do we need this? You don't, but that's what it's for. But like, there really is nothing that even exists on my computer. Like, if you even really think about it, like, all my data is in iCloud. I don't have to worry about backing that. I do back up my computer, but for whatever reason, and I don't really need to. But like, all my data is in iCloud, or all of my company data is in Google, or my email is with Gmail and Microsoft. And like what's on my computer? Just a couple applications to like make my day go easier. But like, think about it from another perspective. Like, we all have one of these mobile devices in our pocket. It's the same thing. There's nothing on it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I use the desktop version of Slack, right? But I don't have to. On my other computer, the one that I use when I'm sitting on the couch, is I just use the web version.
You know that the desktop version of Slack is just an Electron app that points to the web version.
Yeah,
not even a real app.
I know. But that's my point, right?
Yeah.
They're not really apps. They're just windows into the web interface.
Exactly. They're windows into your soul. Anyway, I think we both agree it's a risk versus reward, and the reward has to be high to why you want to have any sort of on-prem server. But again, it's application based. But if it's email, file share under a certain size, anything that is commonly found on the web or in a SaaS or IaaS or HaaS or whatever ass you want to use, like you use it where there's use the company's spending money on building better stuff. Don't try to be, unless you want to start a SaaS company, which is a different story in another episode. Like, don't do this. It's bad for you. It's bad for the environment.
And by the way, there are MSPs who have done that and done it well. So we're not telling you not to. We're just telling you to think about it first and make sure that you know what's going into it before you start.
Yeah, that's the way it is. Well, check us out, facebook.com/group/all things MSP, to fight us on our opinions about hosting your own servers. Check us out in high def glory, youtube.com/@allthingsMSP. Follow us on all your favorite podcasting tools. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. You know the drill. Leave a review. We want to see what you guys have to say. And if you like this episode, let us know. If you don't like this episode, keep it to yourself. No, I'm just kidding. Let us know either way. We don't really care.
Yeah, no, let us know either way. And keep sending in suggestions for us to do episodes. We really do appreciate it. We are bringing you some more guests. We have a guest next week's episode. Yes. We'll have a guest, but I'm going to leave it as a surprise.
Even I don't know who it is. So that's really like the level of surprise we're talking about.
Yes, you do.
I may have it in my email, which is hosted with Google. Anyway, that's Eric. I'm Justin. Bye.
Actually, I don't know if I told you. So let me stop.
No, I don't know who the fuck it is.
I was thinking it was Kevin, because Kevin is next week's episode. Thank you for listening or watching the All Things MSP podcast. If you liked this episode, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, hit that like button, and consider subscribing to catch all our weekly episodes. And from your host extraordinaire, Justin Escar, and myself, Eric Anthony, your humble producer and All Things MSP founder, thank you very much for spending your time with us. If you are not aware, All Things MSP started as a Facebook group and now supports over 6,000 members. We also have a LinkedIn page for those of you who don't do Facebook, and make sure to check out our YouTube channel for even more content. And a big thank you to our premier sponsors, EasyDmark, Helped, GoZinta, MoveBot, and Nodeware. And thank you to the rest of our sponsors. Without sponsors, we could not do what we do for the MSP community. Please consider checking them out. The All Things MSP podcast is a BizPow LLC production. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of any employer, vendor, sponsor, or random taxi driver in the Metro DC area. Be sure to join us next week for another exciting episode.